Morning, y'all. I'm clearly obsessed with my new wig, and now we have a few of my new things on because I just finished filming that video. I'll have it up as soon as I can. Let's talk about something random, which is maybe a little triggering for people. So if you don't like talking about weight, or you know that it triggers you, body, and talking about one's journey with their weight and all of that, do let yourself exit out of this video. And I was just talking to a friend about this, and I just thought it would be a fun conversation to have with people, talking about my own weight journey and what I look like and how I feel about what I look like, etc. Mainly just talking about my weight, not like my facial features or other things about me. But I want to consider myself like have struggled like a ton with my weight, and like it hasn't affected me a ton. But at the same time, like I have had moments where I wasn't doing the right thing. It came to trying to change the way that I look and felt, and specifically how much I weighed. So in high school, I was a cheerleader. I was a cheerleader in, what's it called? Middle school as well, or intermediate. 4, 5, 6 years of my life. And I do think that combination of that, and the way that we worked out and practiced, and then the combination of the way that I was in high school, particularly eating because of my family situation, I think that definitely hindered. I always got, it kind of stunted my growth a little bit, I would say, because I didn't start my period until I was almost 18. I got it at the very end of being 17 is when I started my period. And I was also like the max 95 pounds in high school, which looking back is bonkers, because I remember there was definitely points where I was like, I need to lose weight. I'm so big, and I was minuscule. I don't know why. But I will say I was never diagnosed, but I do think I had body dysmorphia. And I have a good friend that we kind of confided in each other, and I was like, oh, I literally have an eyelash that got stuck to my face. I couldn't see that unless I was in a mirror, but you might have seen that. Anywho, I had a friend I confided in, and she's like, I definitely think you either had, or I don't know, she was like, I think you probably had that in high school, because I had a kind of a bad habit of, when I would go shopping for new clothes, I would always go thrift shopping, and I would buy really baggy clothes, and not for the aesthetic. Back then it was skinny jeans and Abercrombie was the trend, but I would buy bigger clothes, like genuinely think it fit me. I don't think about that very often, but looking back, yeah. It has been many years since I was in high school, so this feels like forever ago to rehash. But very interesting for sure. I don't think I struggle with that anymore. I think I definitely went through different things in college that made me stop doing that. But it did go on for a good while, for sure. Got my period and finally started growing at the very end of high school. We stopped actually doing cheer my last semester of high school, and I literally remember like starting to gain weight. I had always a big chest, but like it grew even more. I was eating the same, but just for some reason, like the sudden stop of working out like 100% like really affected me. And I went to college, and to backtrack one more time, as I mentioned, just like my eating habits at home were very interesting, because at that point in time is kind of when, or not is kind of, I'm like, how do I explain this? But particularly in high school, I remember we just kind of were, it was never said to me, it just kind of happened, where it was like a fend for yourself kind of situation. And so most times I just would forget about it and just not eat. I would say that I never ate breakfast. When I ate lunch at school, it genuinely was a cookie. And I'm not even kidding. The amount of times I would just eat one cookie in high school is insane. I'm not promoting this. Guys, do not take that as like a haha, I think that's funny, and everyone should do that. And obviously I'm not promoting that. and I'm not going to go into further detail. I didn't do anything else like that I would consider like concerning or ED type of situation, but that is definitely concerning, and a girl should not just be eating one cookie when the amount I was working out a week was 7 times a week, probably 2 times a day. So should not be doing that. So I'd eat a cookie for lunch if I had lunch that day. Most times also wouldn't do that. Back then, tell you I was always eating dinner, but honestly probably wasn't. And by then I was just really used to it too. Like, this wasn't hard for me to do. But it was also because I would say around the 7th grade is when my family stopped cooking meals at home. And then high school, it just kind of was like a fend for yourself. Like, we would eat sometimes, like people would be in the kitchen like eating a little bit, and every now and then someone would make a meal and we'd have some of it, but people would go to their rooms and eat. I would say never in my life have I had like true family dinners. All I can remember is maybe like elementary had some family dinners, but even like past elementary, it was like you eat at a TV tray and watch some TV. Very interesting relationship with food, which leads me into college, where I gained freshman 15 100%, and that was really hard on my self-image. But the reason I was doing that, and I'm able to reflect on it now, back then I had no idea why I was gaining so much weight. Obviously delayed puberty, like, bitch needed some weight first off. Didn't look bad, and just to be honest, like I said, freshman 15 or freshman 30. Oh, I'm doing these fingers because this just looks so funny. Freshman 30, because I mean, I gained like 30 pounds, but it was probably good for me, even if it kind of looked quote unquote unhealthy, or I wasn't super fit with my weight. And I was really confused of why it was happening, and I'm able to reflect now, and I truly, for the first time ever, was buying groceries myself and eating proper meals. And on that note, I will admit, and again, I was never diagnosed, but I have confided in a lot of friends that I do think I had a binge eating little moment there for the first like year that I was in college, because I would buy groceries, and I don't know why my brain was like this, but because that was not happening in my household for such a long time, I would buy all these groceries and I'd immediately eat like over half of them in one sitting, in one night. Like, I would buy all the groceries and eat all of them. And it sounds crazy, but it's what was happening. I just would eat all of them. I'd binge all of them. I wasn't throwing them up. I wasn't like bulimic, but yeah, I would binge eat a lot of food. And that was happening for like, I'd say like the first year. It was just like, I had my own money in high school, because I don't want to get into how I got into college and like the whole spiel. Not that it's a bad story, it's a fun story, but it's just, this would make this very, very long. But it goes hand in hand of kind of why I'm talking about this, because I was financially independent for a very long time, but I was saving all of my money to be able to go to college. So I wasn't spending it on food. And now that I was in college, paying for my own college and got a lot of scholarships, now the money that I was earning and having in my bank account was now able to use on food, which sounds crazy. So now I was using it on food, and it was the first time that I was ever doing that for myself. And I don't know why, it just, my brain was on one, all to say. That is what I can boil it down to as trying to interpret my own. To add on, I was not in any sports in college, and I was not working out until probably the second semester of my sophomore year is when I started working out, if I remember just off the top of my head. I think I was about 130, 140 when I felt like I was like, oh my god, I gained so much weight, at the very start. And then I remember my peak weight, I think I was almost 150. I was like 148, whatever. And I was like, wow. As someone who's 5'2", and my genetics are my family's, which is German and Irish, I had a lot of weight in my like legs, and my arms. But specifically my like legs blew up. But at that moment, it was like, okay, I need to start working out. So I started working out. I was going to the gym. I'm losing weight, but not like a ton. Eating better, still not healthily. We're not gonna get into how I eat because that's a whole story too. Just in general, I'm a picky eater. You probably have heard me talk about that a bit on here. But started working out and started to lose some weight. It took time. I think it took, like, if I had to just remember off the top of my head, I think 2 years before I was at a weight that I was more comfortable with. Never looked the exact same as I did in high school. I didn't look how I look now. Like, I think this is kind of, we'll get into it after college, but this is one of the most, not one of the most, this is the smallest I've been since I've been an adult and not in high school. But yes, I didn't look like this either. I was much stronger. I had a lot of muscle. I'm happy with the muscle I have now, but I was more muscular. Got bigger. I would say, like, my weight, the lowest I ever was at that point in time, I would maybe get to like 125, and that's like my lowest. But I would stick around 125 to 130. I'd just fluctuate between there. And I looked much smaller than I did before when I gained the freshman 30. Like, I felt way better about myself, and I felt healthier, and obviously I was eating more properly. So, relationship at that point, I was in different relationships at different times, but that relationship, I gained a little, like, happy relationship weight, but not a ton. And when I did, I like really noticed it, and I don't think it affected me in the same way that it would have used to when I think about my weight, but I did a little be like, oh girl, like, you gotta figure this out. So tried to up the going to the gym, and in different ways, trying different things, more weightlifting, more cardio, like, what else did I try? I don't know, tried lots of different things at different points. What changed for me was actually when I moved to Japan. And I came to Japan for the first time, not this time, the other time. When I came to Japan for the first time, I lost so much weight, and so naturally. It was insane. So I came and I was eating the same type of meals that I would eat at home, I would eat here, but I could feel a difference. The food quality here, I'm not the type of person who knows all the stats, but I can tell you, I know that their food quality is better alone on just the fact of how I felt here. Because in America, I would eat a meal and I would always feel a little icky after the meal. Like, always too. I don't think there was one time that I wouldn't feel icky after a meal in America. Everything is lower calories here. I'm not a calorie counter, and I actually have never been, but I had a friend who came and visited me, and she noticed that my milk, because I love milk, as we know, she was like, girl, like, the milk's actually really good for you here. And I was like, what? She's like, I don't know how they do this, but the calories are not caloring. Like, this is very good for you. And I was like, purr. I was like, it wasn't gonna stop me either way, but slay. To which I found out that a lot of things are just better for you here. So I lost a lot of weight, got to my lowest weight I've ever been. I think my weight was around, the lowest was 110, and it would fluctuate between 110 and 115. And I felt so good in my body. Like, when I would go on runs, I was like, wow, like, I feel like I don't know, just like everywhere felt like I could breathe better. It was crazy. And when I came back to America, I gained some of the weight back, and I would say I was probably fluctuating between 115 and 120 the entire time that I was back, maybe 125. I never weighed myself when I got back to America. When I was getting my visa, I went back to America to get it. Also because I didn't want to gain a ton of weight, but I knew that the food was naturally going to make me gain some weight back. I sold my car, so I wasn't able to use her, and I walked around everywhere that I could. I worked from home, so I was always home, but I would walk over to the coffee shop and work there. I'd walk over to the gym because I also worked at the gym on my evenings and weekends. And I'd walk to get my groceries. And this is all in Texas, Austin, Texas, so I'm kind of crazy for that. And I would go on at least one walk a day. Well, I gained the weight back, I would say, or some good weight back because of the food quality was shit. When I finally got back to Japan, almost immediately I lost some weight again. But I wouldn't say I'm as small as I was the very first time I was here, but I think I'm around 115, and I think I haven't been fluctuating. Like, I don't feel like my weight is fluctuating back and forth, but I think I'm like 115, sometimes closer to 110. So maybe fluctuating between 110 and 115, but definitely not as small as I was the first time. The first time I don't know, I could feel how small I was, and I'm definitely smaller than 120s and 125s, but yeah. Japan to thank for that, I'm not gonna lie. That was like one of my biggest things when I came back to America. People asking me like culture shocks, and I was like, I just lost weight by doing nothing. By eating their food and walking and living life there, I lost weight. So like self-image wise, like of course I want to be small. Like, I'm not gonna lie about that. Like, being small feels really good. I feel like I look better in my clothes. I feel like the way I look in pictures, I feel like self-image wise, I do like when I'm smaller. And I will say that. I don't know if that's controversial to say, but I don't think so. I just feel better. Like, my gut feels better, like internally, externally looks better. Legs, like walking around feels better when my legs aren't touching each other, I'm not gonna lie. You know, the little burn you can get when your legs like touch each other. Yeah, I would always get that. I don't know, like it feels nicer. Even like working out feels better when I don't have as much weight on me. If I'm being realistic, I would love to lose a little more weight, and it's more of a toning weight, I believe. And it's not something I don't think, okay, I guess I was about to say, it's not something that I can change with my diet, but it kind of is if I were to become like a vegetarian / someone who eats very healthy meals, and that is not me, my girl. That is not me. So for me, that kind of, I would imagine, kind of looks like going to the gym and doing some more little like weight training, weightlifting would get me to the point of like losing a little bit more fat on my arms and turning it into muscle instead. I would like that. Doing the same with my other parts of my body that I would consider. It would be nice to do that. So maybe that doesn't equal losing 5 pounds. In my head, I feel like the exchange would become that. But again, I'm no person who is an expert on physical health. I think that's how that would go. But just wanted to have a random conversation of my journey with my weight and my image. Definitely one more thing to talk about is, it was funny, I think it was on my like 22nd birthday, but I think it was when I was 22 and I was watching Friends, the TV show, for the first time, and I actually don't know how old the women are supposed to be portrayed as. I literally don't remember, but for some reason in my mind I was like, oh, they're in their late 20s, early 30s. And I remember that I was like, wow, oh my god, that's when women are so hot. Like, I was like, that's when women are the hottest. And I remember just being in college, and I would have interactions with women in their late 20s, early 30s, maybe even like mid 30s, and I would always, that is peak women beauty. Like, these bitches are not only hot as hell, they've already gone through like to me, I did find I had another awkward stage in college as well as high school. I know that the younger generation are just skipping those entirely, but I had some awkward stages in life, and I was like, wow, by the time I'm like in my late 20s, early 30s, I'm going to be so hot. I don't know. And I think a big thing too is their confidence and their mind. They just seemed more developed. I wonder why. Just as you get older, you get more life experiences, and that frontal lobe we all joke about really do be hitting. And I've always looked forward to my late 20s, early 30s, and I've always been like, that's when women are the prettiest. That's what I've been looking forward to, and I've always been like, I'm gonna be so hot by the time I'm 29. I'm gonna end it on that note. Hopefully that wasn't too dark of a conversation for some people, and we're able to just, get to know me a little better. Yeah. See you next time. Mata ne.